Gunshots erupted in the hallway during the transition from first to second period. Just as the first few shots echoed, the principal's shaky voice declared lockdown over the intercom. This was not a drill. Students dropped their backpacks and sprinted for their lives, diving into classrooms, while all teachers locked their doors and turned off the lights, ushering students under their desks. Being teenagers, the students had naturally believed themselves to be immortal. Now, they all held back their tears. This is the first time they ever truly feared for their lives. Two panicked students barreled around a corner, then slid to a stop, a teacher's urgent whisper grabbing their attention. "Annie, Melissa, get in here," Mr. Anderson called to them. The students rushed into the room with Mr. Anderson, the drama teacher, crying and trembling in fear. "It's gonna be okay, don't worry," Mr. Anderson said. It appeared he'd been shot, for he was clutching his leg as it bled. He let go of his leg to hold Annie tightly, trying to console her. Melissa joined the hug, clinging to him tightly. "Everything's gonna be okay." The girls almost believed him, until he let go of them and took some steps back. They looked at him, confused. But then, Melissa's jaw slowly dropped, unable to scream. Annie's eyes widened, tears slowly escaping her eyes and moving down her face. Mr. Anderson smiled at the girls as he pulled a pistol from his pocket. His leg was fine. It was covered in fake blood. His smile never left his face as he racked the slide back. It was the middle of third period, math. I had just finished a big test. Found out later I messed up big time, but ended up getting a D. I used a hall pass to go to the bathroom. And of course, the bathrooms on the first floor, where I was, were closed for repairs. I had to go up to the second floor, but before I got there, the bell rang. The bell never rang during class before, but as it did, an announcement came over PA. "Students and faculty, we are entering lockdown. This is not a drill. Please, all students and faculty, follow all school procedures." I froze. I could hear sirens approaching. I came out of the stairwell, but already the doors in the hallway were closing, and I could hear them locking. I was alone, and out in the open. I could go into the bathroom now, but the doors had no locks on them since my freshman year. If there was somebody wandering the school, I'd have no chance if I went in there. I ran down the hall. I could see classrooms turning out their lights and covering the windows. I couldn't turn to them for help. All the instructions said to not answer the door. I had to find someplace safe nearby, before something happened. I turned a corner, and I saw my chance. The janitor's closet was open. Lunch was up next period, so he was probably out setting up tables when the announcement was made. He wasn't in there, and it could easily be locked from the inside, so I jumped in and shut off the light. The only light I saw was from the bottom of the door. I waited, and the sirens grew closer and eventually stopped. Time passed, and I wasn't sure if I was happy that I couldn't hear anything going on, or tense because I had no idea what was happening. Then I heard footsteps. Lots of them. They stopped in the hallway. It must have been police. I could hear radios and other assorted noises. I didn't think it could be some sort of lone gunman or nutcase, so I listened. One guy in particular sounded like the one in charge. "Okay, are we in position?" Another guy answered. I didn't know what rank he was, but clearly he was not the guy in charge. "Yes, sir. We know the suspect is in the building. C team is across the campus as ordered, and B team is covering the back entrances. He will not exit the building on our watch." The chief responded. "Good. Remember, he could look like anyone, but he must not escape. It's my fault he's here, and it's my duty to deal with him." I couldn't hear much for a while. There was too much movement. Too many people all talking to each other to make out anybody from where I sat. I just waited for a little while. Maybe it will all just be over soon, and I could leave the closet and go back to class. Then that's when it all happened. The chief yelled out, "Hold it! Put your hands in the air!" The commotion outside stopped abruptly. A moment later, Clothes rustled loudly as what sounded like a large number of guns were drawn. Lay down on the ground. Leave your hands where I can see them. It stayed quiet, except for a few of the guns cocking. I said down on the ground. Don't you dare try to do what I think you're gonna do. You're not in the institute anymore. I thought I would hear shots go off, back and forth, and eventually somebody saying suspect down. What I didn't expect was the scream. It wasn't a normal scream. It wasn't somebody crying out in terror. It was like a wounded animal, mixed with the sound of a bandsaw hitting concrete. I've never heard anything like it before, and I hope I never hear it again. Then the guns began to fire. The horrible screams happened again, and then other screams, and then the sounds of tearing. I saw the shadows under the door as people moved and fell over. Then was another gunshot. I nearly yelled out myself when a bullet punched through the part of the doorway. It wasn't very big, but I put my eye up against it. I could see a group of people being attacked by somebody, but something wasn't right about him. He looked too long in places, like he'd been stretched out in a taffy machine. He was moving so fast, though, that I couldn't make anything out, except for him grabbing people and throwing them around like they were nothing. More gunshots. The scream happened again and again. I pulled away from the bullet hole and sat back in the closet. Then the scream began to fade. I heard a thud, and then more footsteps. The chief spoke again, but he was breathing heavily, like he had been badly wounded. Team A, he's down. I repeat, he's down. We need to clean up, immediately. I wanted to look again, but as curious as I was, I didn't really want to see, but I heard a lot of commotion for a long time. And then, nothing. I don't know how long it was after that, but the PA announced the lockdown had ended. I came out of the closet. I tried not to look. But for all the sounds I had heard, there was not as much sign of a fight as I thought there would be. Even the blood I had seen in that brief time through the bullet hole had all been removed. I went back to class and just told everyone I had hid in the stall in the bathroom. People were impressed with my guts for doing it. But if nobody else heard that scream, I certainly didn't want to bring it up. I don't know for certain what happened that day. I didn't see enough, and I didn't hear enough. But I know there was no shooter at our school that day. What was it? How long had it been in our school? Have I ever been alone with it, and never knew what it was? Who were those people who had come for it? Where did it come from? Is it really dead? I tapped my pencil on my desk softly, in boredom as the teacher was teaching stuff I could care less about. I was in third period, and what stinks about this period is my friend, Haley, isn't in this class with me. We have mostly every class together, and we're best friends. I'm in my least favorite class right now, math. I hate it so much. It's so difficult and hard to understand. I honestly just wanted to walk laps around the school hallway. I needed to make an excuse to leave class. So I raised my hand until Mr. Smith called on me. "What is it, Sarah?" he asked softly. "Can I go to the restroom?" I asked. "Can it wait until after the lesson?" Then I trembled, pretending I had to go really bad. "It's an emergency," I gasped. "Fine, but make it quick," he sighed. "Thanks," I continued in a desperate voice, and raced out of the classroom and closed the door behind me. Once out of view of the students, I grinned in triumph. The hallway looked like a ghost town. There was no one in the halls except me. Strange. But then again, I remembered it was dark and gloomy outside, which was a sign to many people, meaning bad things. If it started storming, then some people believed death was upon them. I don't know why people believe such nonsense. It's just weather. Mother Nature. I began walking towards the gym lobby, which is on a completely different hall than my class. Perhaps I'd skip class the rest of the period. Embarrassingly, a girl was in there washing her hands and looked at me stunned. "What are you doing?" she asked in a confused manner. I had to think of a lie. I spoke to the first lie that came to my mind. I was going to keep it in here because... I began and looked around quickly until I saw a puddle of water on the floor in the middle of the bathroom. "Oh, because there was a big puddle of water right there, and I don't want anyone to slip," I lied. The girl glanced around and spotted the puddle, and nodded slowly as if unsure what to believe. "How did you know the puddle was in here if you weren't in here a moment ago?" the girl asked. "What?" I said stupidly. I've been in here washing my hands for a few moments because I was working on a project in art and got paint all over my hands. I never noticed you come in, and I would have heard you too. The girl continued, and her tone had a hint of a growl. I just remained quiet. I had no interest in doing what I was going to do now. Stupid girl ruining all the fun. Before I could get more than a few thoughts in my head, I heard the intercom buzz, and our principal speaking loud and clearly on it in an alarmed voice, followed with that creepy Amber Alert sound. This is Principal Howard. This is an emergency lockdown. This is not a drill. Please remain in your classes at all times and stay hidden. My heart began to beat rapidly. Lockdown? A school shooter? There were no classes close enough for me to hide in. I would have to hide in the bathroom. Panic began to set in as all the school lights turned off, and the bathroom became dark and cold. It felt like my heart was going to burst out of my chest. I quickly ran to the big stall and locked myself in there, hiding in the corner, and shaking in fear. Usually, me and my friend Haley were together when something dangerous happened. But not this time. I decided to text her to see if she was okay. I quickly pulled out my phone from my back pocket and opened my messages to text her as rain poured down outside and thunder rumbled in the distance, as if the sign was true. Death was upon me.